A huge cleanup is underway across Britain in the wake of Storm Eleanor, which unleashed violent 100 miles per hour winds, leaving one person dead and several others injured.
Power is being restored to some 100,000 which were left without electricity. Trees which landed on homes and roads are being cleared, and a sea wall which collapsed under towering 30 feet waves is being rebuilt in Cornwall.
A yellow warning of wind has been extended for all of England and Wales, most of Northern Ireland and the Scottish borders until 7 p.m. tonight, after an amber warning was put in place for the early hours.
There are fears the storm claimed its first fatality after a body was found in the sea at Splash Point in Seaford, East Sussex. Officers are now working with the Coast Guard to recover the body.
Roads became perilous with one man injured in Hensall in the Vale of Glamorgan, South Wales, when a tree fell on his car. Another 2 men injured when a tree crashed into their car in the New Forest, and a motorist injured by a tree brought down by ferocious winds on the A46 in Ashton-under-Hill.
Now the Met Office is warning of an Arctic air blast which could see temperatures plummet to 10 C over the weekend.
Overturned vehicles forced closures on the A1M, M6 and M5, where a recovery operation was underway to clear up the contents of a lorry left spilled on the road, while one driver was lucky to be alive after his lorry was blown off the M6 in Cumbria during high winds. And a helicopter rescue team bravely flew through winds of up to 80 miles per hour to get a pregnant woman to hospital. The Coast Guard team from Aberdeen, Mid Wales, was forced to battle Storm Eleanor head-on after the woman went into premature labour.
The R963 chopper flew her from her home in Tywyn, Mid Wales, to the specialist neonatal unit at Ysbyty Glan Clwyd Hospital, more than 60 miles away in Denbighshire, North Wales.
The Thames Barrier has been closed to protect London from swelling tides brought on by Storm Eleanor.
Measures to bring the defense system into action were planned for around 10:15 a.m., it was announced on Twitter.
Increasing surges were forecast after high tide in the afternoon, triggering the precautionary move. It is the 180th time the Thames Barrier has been closed to guard the capital from tidal flooding, according to an account run by Environment Agency staff at the site.
A yellow warning of wind remains active for all of England and Wales, most of Northern Ireland and the Scottish borders until 7 p.m. on Wednesday, after an amber warning was put in place for the early hours.
But the powerful winds of Storm Eleanor are to be quickly replaced by an icy blast of Arctic air, with the mercury plummeting to 10 C by the weekend. The authorities have also warned of the possibility of localized coastal flooding in Atlantic counties over the next 2 days of high tides.
Rainfall amounts were predicted to be between 10 to 20 millimeters countrywide, with Galway and Donegal possibly receiving amounts of 25 to 30 millimeters in what is described as packing showers. Met Office forecaster Ole Clayton said, "It has left some pretty strong winds in its wake still.
It will continue to taper off into this afternoon and this evening, but it's certainly starting to quieten down across the UK now, back down to regular winds for this time of year."
There is another system of low pressure moving towards Ireland which is expected Wednesday into Thursday, which is being monitored by Met Éireann.
Overall 150,000 homes, farms and businesses suffered a loss in electricity supply as a result of Storm Eleanor on Tuesday evening, predominantly in counties Mayo, Leitrim, Sligo, Galway, Cavan, and Monaghan. The Department of Employment Affairs and Social Protection has activated its humanitarian assistance scheme, which is available to assist people whose homes are damaged by flooding and who are not in a position to meet costs for essential needs, household items and in some instances structural repair.
The Met Office said gusts of 100 miles per hour were recorded at Great Dunfell in Cumbria at 1 a.m., while wind speeds reached 90 miles per hour at Orlock Head in Northern Ireland on Tuesday evening.
Gusts up to 89 miles per hour were recorded on the Isle of Wight at around midnight, while in Northolt, northwest London, speeds of up to 73 miles per hour were detected and 77 miles per hour gusts were recorded in High Bradfield, South Yorkshire. Ollie Clayton of the Met Office said after Eleanor, "It's back to cold conditions."
Saturday night into Sunday morning could well see the mercury drop to -10 C, 14 F, in various parts of Scotland.
Even on Saturday, the temperature won't get much higher than 2 C or 3 C, 35-37 F, and with the wind chill factor, it will feel bitterly cold during the day.
The high pressure is not going anywhere and you are likely to see these very cold temperatures until the middle of next week at least.
The one benefit is that days are likely to be bright and sunny.
Friday will see the last of the relatively mild conditions, at 6 C, 42 F, but the day will be grey and wet with little in the way of wind. Lawyer Graham Kirk captured some astonishing footage of his plane coming in to land at London City Airport this morning despite the strong winds.
In the clip, the plane is repeatedly buffeted by Storm Eleanor.
He wrote on Twitter, LCY, where each flight today comes with a free roller coaster ride.
Very sporting go-around on today's BA 8705 from Meaty.
Someone buy that captain a beer.
An object in the overhead lines between London Paddington and Hayes reduced the number of trains leaving the major hub, while power outages halted rail services between Letchworth Garden City and Cambridge, and 3 on the line caused major delays on London's Metropolitan line.
Meanwhile, families were forced to stack sandbags against their front doors in a desperate bid to stop seawater flooding their homes along the north coast of Cornwall this morning.
About 350 houses near Perranporth in Cornwall were without power tonight, Western Power Distribution said.
Police in Newquay warned people to stay away from the coastline as high winds lashed the area.
Waves up to 30 feet high are overpowering coastal defences and swamping seaside towns and villages where many people are without electricity after trees brought down power lines.
And a sizable chunk of a factory roof at one of Northern Ireland's major businesses has been ripped off by Storm Eleanor.
The mobile building at Harlan and Wolff, H&W, Heavy Industries in East Belfast was not in use at the time.
It was intended for painting projects, a spokesman for the company said.
H&W was once one of the world's leading shipbuilders. It built the Titanic, and currently focuses on offshore energy and steel fabrication. The spokesman said the damage affected the outer skin of the roof.
Winds of 84 miles per hour were reported on the Isle of Portland and Dorset overnight.
There have been reports of more than 30 fallen trees in the county since 6 p.m. last night.
Fast ferry crossings from the UK and France have been cancelled because of the high winds.
A spokesperson for Condor Ferries said, with wind speeds of up to 70 miles per hour and wave heights above 7 meters, the company cancelled 4 sailings and placed other departures under review.
For today, all fast ferry sailings have been cancelled from the UK and France, and Clipper's departure from Portsmouth is being delayed until the wind speeds moderate to permit berthing in the Channel Islands.
People living next to railway lines are being urged to secure their outdoor belongings after 2 trampolines were blown onto tracks by Storm Eleanor.
The trampolines were discovered by train crews near Aylesbury, Buckinghamshire, on Tuesday night.
Mark Killick, Chief Operating Officer for Network Rail's London North Western route, said, "It is incredible to think that a trampoline could fly through the air onto the railway, but here we have not 1 but 2 at the same location."
This is an ongoing problem for us which poses an obvious safety hazard and inconvenience to passengers.
We would appeal to people living by the railway to ensure items such as trampolines, gazebos, marquees and tents are tethered so they don't end up on the railway during high winds.
Network Rail staff shifted the trampolines off the track and tethered them for removal. Police forces in Cumbria, Suffolk, Norfolk and Humberside were among those to issue warnings that downed trees had blocked routes.
Isle of Man police said infrastructure staff worked through the night to remove trees from the roads, while there were multiple reports of roofs coming off buildings, flooding and mud debris.
The states of Jersey police said multiple roads remain closed due to fallen trees, stormy weather and high waves.
As well as the problems posed by high winds, the Environment Agency has issued 50 flood warnings and 110 flood alerts, with coastal areas under threat from a combination of a high tide and large waves. In Cheshire, the RISPCO was called to a road.
A tide-battered harbour wall in Portsmouth, Cornwall, partially collapsed as the storm intensified this morning, police said.
Cornwall police said they were called at around 5:50 a.m. due to a very high tide and water coming onto the road.
Closer to shore, cracks began to form in the harbour wall and water poured through it, while some steps collapsed.
A spokeswoman for Cornwall police said a 25 feet to 30 feet section was later swept further out to sea.
She said, "There is no risk to anybody. Highways England are putting bags along the road and there are barriers up as well."
As the storm spread from Ireland into the north of England and the southeast, yellow warnings were issued across Britain and amber wind warnings were issued for parts of Northern Ireland.
The Environment Agency has issued an urgent warning that 30-feet waves smashing in from the Atlantic could swamp seaside roads, quays, piers and harbor walls and are telling people to remain indoors.
The Maritime and Coast Guard Agency said.